Despite the incredible wealth of its owner, Walmart pays many of its employees starvation wages.
Bernie Sanders was invited by Walmart workers to their annual shareholders meeting where Bernie said a few words to the corporate overlords there at Walmart. Now, before I get to that video, I really want to break down this story. So I want to show you what workers at Walmart are saying, and I also want to show you what happened before Bernie even said anything at the meeting. So before we get there, the day before Bernie spoke, he handed his social media accounts over to Walmart employees to discuss their experience working at Walmart. So I want to share with you just a few of those videos of Walmart workers that discuss their story.
Working at Walmart has been mentally and physically draining due to the fact that we're understaffed, underpaid. I'm constantly having to worry about whether or not my hours are going to get cut, and because we have inconsiderate management and policies that don't have the associates' best interest in mind. That's why I'm so excited to hear about Senator Sanders speaking on our behalf as shareholders. It excites me to know that someone like Senator Sanders is willing to speak on our behalf concerning having Walmart associates on the board.
Is it fair that millions of people who don't work for Walmart have to pick up a government benefit tab in terms of food stamps and other government payouts for those of us who do? I personally am not, but I know I work with people and I know people who are on government benefits because the pay at Walmart is that low.
I am 63 years old and I am disabled due to multiple hip surgeries and arthritis. I am so glad that Bernie Sanders is standing with us in this fight. It's time for Walmart to give the associates a seat at the table. Being on the corporate board would give people with disabilities like me a voice in the decisions that affect their lives.
All right, so those are just a few examples of the stories that were being shared on Bernie's social media pages. And it sums up sort of what Bernie was or is going to talk about at Walmart. So discussing the idea of putting workers or having some representation of workers on the board at Walmart. This is a very popular policy in some European nations where I forget which country it is exactly, maybe Sweden, where half of the boards at large companies have to be made up of workers within the company so that they have a say. I mean, it seems sort of obvious, but we live in a system where this isn't obvious, and these incredibly wealthy people that work in these executive branches essentially have all the power in these companies. And of course, also raising pay is another aspect of Bernie's speech that we'll get to. But before Bernie even spoke at the event, this is what happened. So this tweet from Kara Corte at CBS News. Before Sanders takes the stage at Walmart shareholders meeting, CEO Doug McMillon calls for Washington to raise federal minimum wage. Quote, "It's time for Congress to put a thoughtful plan in place to increase the minimum wage." So, do you think Walmart would be saying this if they didn't feel the pressure from Bernie Sanders and Walmart workers? Of course not. This is what Bernie is already helping to achieve as just a candidate. Imagine Bernie Sanders as president and the power that he would be able to, or the pressure that he would be able to put on these massive corporations if he weren't able to do it through passing bills if there was, say, a Republican Senate still. So even without a majority in the Senate, he could still get things done by pressuring these massive corporations. Now, just to give you a few examples before we get to Bernie's speech, this isn't the first time that he's done this. So remember the Stop Bezos Act, where Amazon actually raised their minimum wage to $15 following pressure from Bernie Sanders. Or when Bernie Sanders spoke at a rally to call for higher wages for Disneyland resort workers, and a month later, Disneyland Resort agrees to deal to raise minimum wage for California staff. So these are just several examples of how Bernie, just as a politician, as a senator, and as a candidate, has been able to pressure these massive corporations. But now let's get to Bernie speaking at Walmart. So he's going to be introducing here a Walmart resolution. And I'm going to play you also the before and the after just to give you an idea of how inhuman Walmart is.
Next, we'll consider the proposal mentioned in the Other Matters section of the proxy statement. It was submitted by Ms. Carolyn Davis. Senator Bernie Sanders will present this proposal on behalf of Ms. Davis. Senator Sanders, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me thank Walmart employee Kat Davis for introducing this resolution. And it states, and I quote, "Resolved, shareholders of Walmart urge the board to adopt a policy of promoting significant representation of employee perspectives among corporate decision makers by requiring that the initial list of candidates from which new nominees are chosen by the Nominating and Governance Committee include hourly associates. The policy should provide that any third-party consultant asked to furnish an initial list will be requested to include such candidates." End of quote, end of resolution. Madam Chair, the issue that we are dealing with today is pretty simple. Walmart is the largest private employer in America and is owned by the Walton family, the wealthiest family in the United States, worth approximately $175 billion. And yet, despite the incredible wealth of its owner, Walmart pays many of its employees starvation wages, wages that are so low that many of these employees are forced to rely on government programs like food stamps, Medicaid, and public housing in order to survive. Frankly, the American people are sick and tired of subsidizing the greed of some of the largest and most profitable corporations in this country. They are also outraged by the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in America, as demonstrated by the CEO of Walmart making 1,000 times more than the average Walmart employee. Last year, Walmart made nearly $10 billion in profit. It paid its CEO over $20 million in compensation, and it has authorized $20 billion in stock buybacks, which will benefit its wealthiest stockholders. Surely, with all of that, Walmart can afford to pay its employees a living wage of at least $15 an hour. And that is not a radical idea, because many of Walmart's major competitors like Amazon, Costco, and Target have already moved in that direction. Further, Walmart should give a voice to its workers by allowing them seats on the board of directors. The concerns of workers, not just stockholders, should be part of board decisions. Today, with the passage of this resolution, Walmart can strike a blow against corporate greed and a grotesque level of income and wealth inequality that exists in our country. Please do the right thing. Please pass this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Sanders, for your presentation and for your viewpoint. While we don't support this particular proposal, the importance of listening to and investing in our associates was reflected in Doug's remarks, and you'll hear more about it later in the meeting.
All right. Now, apart from the points I already hit on with Bernie talking about the need to raise wages and how Walmart employees are essentially, many of them having to live off government benefits, which are taxpayer-funded benefits because of Walmart's greed. So taxpayers are subsidizing Walmart's greed. Apart from Bernie's points there, look how emotionless this executive at Walmart is. And not even just that. So apart from, the obvious lack of empathy here, the whole culture is set up this way. So why is it that only the executives get to speak from a stage? I mean, if Walmart actually cared about their workers, actually took these proposals seriously, why aren't they allowed up on stage to discuss them? It's like visually, they're just giving people, they're showcasing this sort of two-tiered reality in the culture within Walmart where, the people at the top get to stand on the stage and talk down to all of you while the workers have to talk about their proposals from the floor. I mean, it's built in to the company culture. Now, I have two more clips here to show you. So I want to first show Bernie Sanders talking to some of the Walmart workers outside of the event right after he spoke.
One might think that a family worth $175 billion would be able to pay its employees a living wage. And yet, as you all know, the starting wage at Walmart now is $11 an hour.
All right, so that goes on for a couple more minutes. I'll have a link to all these videos below my video so you can check out the full context. But you see there, again, Bernie rallying the Walmart workers. Now, I want to show you when a CNN reporter confronted Bernie after his speech, asking Bernie if he thought that Walmart got the message.
Do you feel that the Walmart CEO got your message today?
No, I don't. I think if he got the message, what he would say is that we are going to do what many of our competitors are doing, what Amazon has already done, what Costco has done, what Target is moving toward, and raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour. Look, this is not a radical idea. You got the wealthiest family in our country worth $175 billion. Surely they can afford to pay their employees a living wage.
Now, he did say that they do believe the federal minimum wage
Well,
should
that's
be
fine.
raised.
We are working on it. I led the effort in the Senate to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. We got strong Republican opposition there. In the House, I hope they will do it. But with Republicans controlling the Senate, there is no guarantee we will succeed. What we need is Walmart, the largest private sector employer in this country, to take a bold step forward and say that all of their employees should live with dignity.
And how would you respond to some of the things they've said they've done for their employees? You think it's enough? I mean,
No, it is not enough. Look, I'm not here to, criticize everything that they have done. All that I'm saying is that if you work 40 hours a week in the United States, especially in a company owned by the wealthiest family in America, a company which has apparently enough resources to pay its CEO over $20 million a year in compensation, 1,000 times more than what the average worker makes. If you can do all of that, you can pay your workers a living wage.
So there you go. People have to understand, this is the only way these massive companies are going to move on any of these issues, if they're forced to. In a capitalist system, there is no need for these companies to treat their workers properly. They'll just exploit and exploit and exploit as long as they can do it within the law. So if the policies allow them to, or if the lack of regulations allow them to pay their workers starvation wages, then they'll do so. Because there's no reason, there's nothing forcing them to do otherwise. So this kind of political pressure and this rallying of workers is the only way to fight back against this. And this is why I see Bernie Sanders as the clear choice in the Democratic primary, because he's the only one doing this. Well, you have other candidates with strong progressive platforms. You first of all don't have someone like Bernie Sanders with the same track record, the same 40-year track record that he has. But on top of that, he's the only one discussing a political revolution, actually rallying people together and being willing to go to these various states and put political pressure on the politicians in various districts and states to support bills like a Medicare for All bill, for example, that he'll want to pass. He's the only candidate willing to call out all politicians regardless of party. And that's why I think Bernie Sanders is the clear choice for voters in the Democratic primary.